It's the weekly wrap with your host, broadcasting legend Bruce Wolf, and his trusty sidekick, comedian Tim Slagle. And now, without further ado, Bruce Wolf.
Bruce Wolf, Tim Slagle. Oh, no Tim Slagle on the weekly wrap. Mike North here. Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Good. You could call me Mick. You could call me Mike.
Right.
Don't call me late for dinner.
I'm already bad. I screwed up your name. That's really. I used to screw up my own name. Try to say Bruce Wolf 10 times real fast. It's not easy.
I've tried it. I've gotten it up to 4 times, and then I'm a
and had I been a girl, my mother was going to name me Beth. So try saying Beth Wolf. Thank God I'm a manly man.
A manly man.
So Mike, so we do this show and it's topical and blah blah blah.
That's what I hear.
I know you're up on everything, but I'm kind of hoping you're not up on this.
Okay.
But have you been following at all the so-called controversy over what Amy Jacobsen said about Gus Walls' kid? You have been following it.
Of course,
I'm a little disappointed because I want to think that it's basically a newspaper that nobody reads, the Tribune, talking about a radio station that nobody listens to.
It hit Twitter. It hit Twitter. That's what happened. It hit
Twitter is what made it.
I haven't read the Tribune since I delivered it back in,
You delivered the Tribune, and I sold Tribune subscriptions over the phone. And
we both quit, and the whole damned industry went down the drain. I mean, I remember when the Tribune on Sundays, I mean, I was a half pint. I'm 15 years old. I'm getting up at 3 a.m. delivering the Tribune, and they were big on Thursdays and on Sundays. I had a lot of third floors in the neighborhood, and I couldn't throw the Sunday Tribune up to the third floor. It was like too big. Yeah. Now, where I live now, they throw the paper on the driveway, and if it gets windy, it blows off the damn it blows off the driveway. I mean,
it looks like a shopper.
Right.
Yeah.
You couldn't even throw it now because the wind would take it.
So now the size of newspapers is like a shopper that used to be sent to you.
Right.
It's like a flyer.
Little pamphlet that they put on the doorknob of your home. It just hangs there, At the Sun-Times and the Tribune, they took the most unimaginative journalists and put them in 2 newspapers to just bore us to death for the last 20 years. And I do see some stuff on Twitter that's where you run into the newspaper stuff, but it's just an average product now, and that's why I used to love the newspaper. I really loved reading the sports section, read it from front to back, and it's just not there anymore. I think when you read a newspaper, though, you manage to catch everything. When you just depend on social media, there'll be somebody that will say, hey, did you see that one deal about so-and-so? No, I didn't see that. If you read a paper, you're going to run into it somewhere. But if you're on social media, you could miss it. So
I live my whole life on Twitter, basically. I mean, I do this podcast, but other than that, it's totally Twitter. And you know what? And I can't even read novels or books anymore. No. All I read is like, if it's more than a 2-segment tweet, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't deal with it.
I mean, they had a 2-paragraph tweet, and I got in through the first 5 lines. I started to get a little dizzy.
All right. So the controversy has.
Yeah.
I didn't see it live at the convention because I like to read about the convention on Twitter. I didn't watch this moment where Gus Walls' kid, who has a learning disability, or Tim Walls' kid, who is Gus Walls, 17-year-old kid who has a learning disability, was cheering his dad on, and Dan Proft, my former partner, who got the job that I wanted to get at WIND, so I don't like him.
But you've let it go.
So, hey, I gave up a job for you to get a job.
Yes, you did.
Okay, so
that's why I'm here.
I'm a 2-time loser. So anyway, so Dan Proft likened this to a Chris Farley sketch on Saturday Night Live, where this was like a 94 sketch where Giuliani apparently
I remember.
Took to the podium when he was named the mayor, and he had a 7-year-old kid there. So they had a sketch where they have somebody, I think Kevin Nealon, doing Chris doing Giuliani, and Chris Farley does the 7-year-old kid, and he's making all kinds of gestures and screwing up and everything like that. And there's a liberal audience that watched Saturday Night Live back then. They thought it was funny to look at a kid depicted that way.
Yes.
But now, so Dan Proft likened it to that, like to not knowing that this Gus Walls has a severe learning disability,
Right.
and then he apologized the next day for it. Ditto for Amy Jacobsen, but she winds up losing her job as a volleyball coach for Amundsen High School. I thought their apology was fine, but it was blown up. It was in the Tribune, and you could just see the bureaucrats saying, "Oh no, we got to get rid of her." So
here's the deal. The deal is that Giuliani's kid was just an excitable young man.
Right.
This young man had a problem, had an issue.
Right.
Amy didn't know about it. She
Right.
didn't know. Now, maybe she should have known. I don't know. I didn't know that night when he came out. I didn't see when it happened. But then the next day to get on. Here's my deal. I coached for 6 years basketball at Notre Dame. And I did a damn good job. I was great with the kids. I think Amy probably did a great job at Amundsen because she coached both the boys and the girls teams. And the way I looked at it is like, I used to tell Ron Gleason, who was our program director, he goes, I got a phone call about you today. I go, I said to him, if you get 20, then alert me.
Right.
One phone call, we don't know how many phone calls it took. I heard it was one person. She did apologize, and all of a sudden she resigned. Now, was she under pressure to resign? Did she?
Yeah, I'm sure she was.
I think she
Here's
was.
the thing, and I don't want to. It sounded like, because I would read Twitter, and there were all these Tribune writers.
Sure, there was.
That, I mean, everybody short of Bob Green.
Yes.
Was
right.
And Ryko was writing about this and the pressures on, and I think it seems like a lynch mob.
It did.
I
think she apologized. I thought that was good enough. I started saying to myself, okay, she's doing that job. That has nothing to do with the job that she does as a coach. Then I started saying, thank God she had the job as a coach, because they might have gone after her on the radio. For God's sake. So they got.
Well, they would never get her on the radio because it's a conservative, right-wing nut job station, which I am.
You know what? I would like to say that. I would like to say that, but I've seen Fox television leave people from Megyn Kelly to Bill O'Reilly, you name it, some powerhouses, Tucker Carlson. So I don't buy that. I don't buy because you're on a liberal station that you're safe. I think you could say something on a liberal station and get
on a conservative station.
Trouble.
Yeah, right. You could get in trouble.
I don't think that matters at all. I think the Tribune and the Sun-Times, if you say something, we just saw it. She said something on the liberal station. If they kept the heat on her, she didn't have Amundsen. They won. She apologized.
I don't think they'd knock her off WIND. I mean, it's not Dave Baum's radio station anymore.
No,
or Howard Miller's. But it is interesting that you say that it just looked like one person. I read the Tribune story.
Mm-hmm.
And because I still subscribe to it on the line, don't ask me why, because I want to see the kinds of garbage they throw in, I guess.
Yeah.
But also, I kind of like Paul Sullivan a little bit,
sure,
this stuff, and Brad Biggs. But I saw a story, and this is just a podcast right now, so we can speculate.
Mm-hmm.
And it was written by. They had two bylines, and one of the bylines was a woman named Atkins. Was named Atkins, and one of the people quoted in the story was named Atkins hyphen something. And I just wondered, are they related?
Yeah.
No, not, and probably not, but it's certainly worth the question.
There wasn't a ton of calls. Usually you read the station was besieged with calls.
Right. I mean, I don't know.
There was a guy named Hunter Atkinson or whatever it is. I don't like what happened. And you know what? She lost her gig, which I'm sure she loved. I'm sure she loved coaching volleyball. I'm sure the kids will miss her. It's too bad that an apology does not, you can apologize now and they'll go, oh, you're sorry. That's too bad. We don't accept your apology. It's too bad that it seemed like an innocent mistake, but she was in that position.
All I can say is the subsequent story I saw on it, in which she had resigned.
Yeah.
wasn't written by this person, and they didn't use a quote from that person. They used somebody else. And I'm just wondering, I just like to know. I'm sure the Tribune didn't do anything wrong, but I just like to know just how did this story evolve here?
Right.
But I'm just curious about
Are
it.
you
But
saying that maybe it was a story that was planted by somebody that works at the Tribune that wrote something up?
I have no idea. I mean, that's
I thought we were speculating.
Well, right. We're doing a podcast. That's what
You
we're
said I have
supposed to
no
be
idea.
doing.
We'll speculate on that idea. Speculate, my
I
friend.
just want to, I'd like to do some discovery, send out some interrogatories, whatever, maybe take a couple of depositions.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's just interesting because that if somebody had made fun of like Barron Trump or the Tribune writers wouldn't be complaining about this.
No.
I don't think they would have.
And you know what? I mean, you could just tell there's certain agendas, you know what, they went out together. It's WIND. They did make a big deal out of it from what I saw. And this is where the Tribune benefits because it goes on social media, it goes on Facebook, it goes on Twitter. That's where they get their bones now from the subscriptions, from the Twitter and from social media and from Facebook and stuff like that. So it didn't turn into, look at me, I've been involved in some major type of situations. This did not seem like that big a major situation, especially since she apologized for misunderstanding the situation. She did not know he was.
But look, I kind of feel you got to throw. I mean, Amy, you're the sacrificial lamb. You got to throw the Tribune a bone. Have you seen the Freedom Center lately? It's been torn down for Bally's Casino, right? And
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Tower.
Well, my dream is to drive down on Halsted Street 11 midnight, win about $5,000, and try to get out of there alive. You know what I mean?
Bruce Wolf, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap.
Generally speaking, how should voters look at some of the changes that you've made, that you've explained some of here in your policy? Is it because you have more experience now and you've learned more about the information? Is it because you were running for president in a Democratic primary? And should they feel comfortable and confident that what you're saying now is going to be your policy moving forward?
Dana, I think the most important and most significant aspect of my policy perspective and decisions is my values have not changed. You mentioned the Green New Deal. I have always believed, and I have worked on it, that the climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time.
Bruce Wolf, Mike North in for Tim Slagle on the Weekly Wrap. So it's interesting, Mike. We are recording this before the CNN interview with Kamala Harris comes out, and then so we're going to have to act like it's because this will be coming out our podcast like tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we've got to react to something we haven't seen yet, but I know you can do that. Yeah. We do have a clip that we just played, which this is the one that CNN sent out. And I got to tell you, I mean, I know I'm biased, but it's horrible. Yeah, it's absolutely horrible for Kamala Harris.
18-minute interview.
18 minutes. Now, you remember Rosemary Woods' gap was longer than this interview was. Yeah. There was a blank tape longer than this from the Nixon Watergate tapes. So basically, Dana Bash is just setting her up. She's saying, do you think it was because everybody knows Kamala's changed all these positions.
Sure.
So she's trying to help her. Do you think you've gained experience? And I got to give Kamala credit. She doesn't take the bait. She says, no, I have these same values that I've always had. And, it bears actually reading the whole thing here. Mm-hmm. The climate crisis is real, that it is an urgent matter to which we should apply metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. And my first question is, well, what else would you hold a deadline around? Space? But this reminds me of the way I used to, when I was in school, they give you a blue book to fill out an answer and an exam. And if I didn't know the answer to the question, I just make the question fit whatever answer I had prepared and just filled out the space. And it's a bunch of BS. It's total BS.
They can't, they said they only did 18 minutes. Everybody's surprised about that. This is your first sit-down interview. Waltz was basically there as an ornament because he couldn't be the mansplainer, you know, to make her. I found it very odd that they needed him. He just sat there. And, you know, she's been working hard to reverse a lot of things that she said over the past week or two. And in one stunning sentence, she just demolished all that. My values haven't changed. This is the way I am. The thing that I just don't understand about her is why she can't stay focused to the question that's asked. Why doesn't she read? Why doesn't she get familiar? Because she just goes off the seat of her pants like she's some sports talk show host or something. You know what I mean?
And you know what that's like.
Oh my God, it's nothing but trouble. But I don't think she did herself.
Did you ever comment on an event or something like that you actually hadn't seen?
Well, I mean, before we were born, you comment on, you know, sports like Babe Ruth and guys that you've never seen, but you've seen highlights and stuff. But no, I don't think I ever.
Okay.
One time I tried to remember a guy's number and I thought I knew.
Ask me who it was because if it's in the 60s and a Chicago team, I know that answer.
Rick Monday, Cubs. Go ahead.
Rick Monday. Oh boy.
Yeah, there you go.
He wasn't 7, was he?
He might have been 7.
Yeah. You got to know the answer.
Oh no. No. You're the guy that was supposed to tell me the answer because you said send me anything from the 60s. Or no, did Monday play in the 60s?
No, he did not.
The 70s. That was on me. That's bad on me.
Ask me a 60s. Ask me a John Bacabella.
Andre Rogers.
18.
There you go.
And I got an Andre Rogers story for you. Okay.
I love Andre Rogers stories.
Okay. So I'm watching the Cub game in the late 80s. Harry's doing the game.
Hey.
Okay. There's a ground ball to short.
A grounder. Hey.
Sean Dunstan's the shortstop, and let the record show Sean Dunston was a black man.
Yes, he was
playing short. Harry says ground ball to Andre Rogers.
Yes, he did.
He had a brain cramp. We went back to the 60s. He sees a black shortstop.
Yep.
I mean, he could have said Ernie Banks, but he says, there's a Rick Monday.
There's Rick.
He says Andre Rogers, and I knew that it was then that I knew that Harry was starting to lose it. But we loved it. And the other big Harry story I have is, you remember how I used to do the backwards names?
Hey, Jim.
You remember that?
Spelled backwards as loser. Hey.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. But, you know, he used to do that when there was downtime in a game, and which in baseball, plenty of downtime.
Sure.
One time, they're playing the Mets. The bases are loaded in the 9th inning.
Hey.
Ron Darling is pitching for the Mets. I mean, we're coming. This is the ultimate pitch. I think it was a 3-2 count. Okay. Yeah. All of a sudden, Harry goes, Darling backwards. Wait a minute, Harry. We got something happening right now. Anyway.
Yeah. By the way, Rick Monday, with that one swoop of the American flag, made it possible for him never to have to pay for a meal ever again.
Unbelievable. And by the way, he was
got the job in LA.
He deserved it.
In the place. Yes, he did.
He deserved it.
Yes, he did.
So anyway, Chris just put a graphic up. He was number 7. I got that right, even though you strayed out of the 1960s.
Yep.
So
look at that. I used to like those road uniforms. I liked them. They got to bring back the Happy Cub shoulder patch, though. That's missing. The Happy Cub, no matter what. We were disgusted. Santo would go 0 for 4, but then you'd look at the Happy Cub shoulder patch and say tomorrow's another day. The only bear that didn't have a mouth has 2 eyes and a nose, but he's a Happy Cub.
I never really.
I love that.
The physiognomy or whatever of the Chicago Cub itself. I mean, I know Clark the bear doesn't wear pants. Huh?
You didn't look at Happy Cub on the shoulder?
I mean, I saw it, but it was just there. You're a big
never
Cub.
Gotten rid of it. They got like a grizzly bear crawling through a sea now or something on their shoulder patch. I don't know what the hell it is. My Labrador's rocking through it there. I don't know. Go back to the Happy Cub. Go back to Steve Anaveris. Go back to Jerry Kindle. Go back to Andre Rogers.
16, Jerry Kindle. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Jerry Kindle.
Yeah, great. Okay, I knew this would degenerate. I mean, these are better answers than Kamala was giving, apparently. So we don't know what the rest of the interview looks like, but I would guess. I mean, wouldn't you have to ask her? You'd have to ask Kamala.
Looks like a muskrat.
Yeah, you'd have to ask Kamala. Look, you said that ICE was the KKK. Do you believe that ICE is the KKK? She can't answer that with, well, you know, we got metrics that include holding ourselves to deadlines around time. I mean, she's got to answer
everything's time. She answered about time today. She goes, it's the metrics of time. The first thing I'd say is this metric thing. Explain it to me. She'd be gone. She'd be lost. Explain the metric thing to me, because I don't get it. Is it going to go up a couple metrics? We're going to have trouble breathing because of the smog? Is the rain going to hit us harder than it usually does? Help me out here. I believe the climate hoax, and that's what it is, the greatest hoax of this century or any other. The money they have taken in, and basically when you have China and India and all these other countries that don't follow, and we're the only ones spending the money off of what? I think our air's clean. Apparently people in the 60s and 70s tried taking a walk down Broadway in Lawrence in 1960. It was a virtual smoke bomb, for Christ's sake. Now, everything, I think this country does a lot for climate change. So for her to make that and to start off to make that her major deal, after you've had 9 million people walk through the gates, after you've had the problem with Biden, after all these issues, to start out with that, I think people know. I think people know that the climate thing, this country, this world's been here for 4.5 billion years. And she or anybody else is
Mike, I got to tell you, you're emitting a lot of hot air right now. A lot of carbon
dioxide. You like that.
All right, but here's the thing. I remember this a little bit of data, just amazing. Mm-hmm. A car in the 1960s in a garage was emitting more pollution when it was off than a car on the street does now. So I mean, it's I'm not saying there isn't work to be done, but when I look at the metrics and I look at my values haven't changed, and I look at the metrics, and here's what I think is that we're going to be fine.
Not just metrics, the metrics of time. You leave time out of it, the metrics go nowhere. It's the metrics.
That's true. You got metrics and time have a symbiotic relationship. You have to understand that, Dana. Without metrics, there's no time, and without time, there's no metrics. One cannot exist without the other.
I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Did I fill up the blue book? Did I fill up did I get an answer that's satisfactory? Did I pass?
You got it done.
So, and then now all of a sudden she's in favor of the wall. Okay. Before she wanted the border to be porous, and I still believe that in her heart of hearts, that's what she wants. But now she believes in the wall. That's great.
Well, she wants to get as many votes as she can. I don't know. I don't think anybody believes anything that anybody says anymore. I mean, you talked about journalism earlier. They got lower ratings than Congress, for God's sake, the journalists now. I mean, you know what, you used to get a little bit of a balance, but with all these stations now, you just get one side.
You know what I imagine it is with journalism is the same as Congress. People hate Congress in general, but they like their own congressman, and people hate journalists in general too, but they like their own website. That's what they like.
I don't think I don't think everybody likes every journalist in Chicago. I'll tell you.
No, not every. No, they're just their own thing. I mean, that right.
Yeah. I mean, if you like, if you like Bob Greene, for instance, back in the day, but you didn't like Royko, that was okay. See, you know what I think hurt? Nobody discusses politics at the table anymore. We used to discuss entertainment, sports, politics at the dinner table, but when you don't discuss politics, you don't get any side. Hey, don't say anything. We don't want to fight. If you can't, I think people are misinformed because they used to spend a lot of time, during election season, back from when Kennedy ran all the way till now, discussing politics. Now you bring up Trump's name, there's an uproar. You bring up Kamala's name, there's an issue. So I just think that the lack of debate from normal people, forget about what the journalists tell you. You used to be able to clean that up by talking to your friends and everything. That's all gone. You can't even discuss anything anymore without somebody getting offended.
Screw you, man. Bruce Wolf.
I know. I don't want to talk to you anymore.
Mike North on Weekly Wrap.
7 weeks today, the American voters will deliver their verdict. But will they get to hear some of those arguments in a televised debate next month? It's all a bit up in the air. The two sides still at odds over the format of that ABC debate.
Bruce Wolf, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap. So, Mike, fresh from Kamala Harris's very successful interview with Dana Bash, we assume, she's all geared up to debate Donald Trump. I think that she really wanted her one and only interview to be done by Donald Trump and have him interrupt her all the time so that she could just say, "You're interrupting me." That would be her ideal.
I'd love to debate her. I'd love to debate her. I mean, when the average guy in the street would love to debate her. I mean, I just saw this, Bruce, and this is breaking news. She's been talking about how she's a regular lady and she went on to school buses and everything. She said she worked at McDonald's. Now that just came out, she never worked at McDonald's. Can't these people tell the truth about anything?
Now, here,
I'm talking about both sides. Can't you tell the truth about anything?
Let's talk about the McDonald's thing real quickly.
Yeah.
So apparently McDonald's has no record of her working there.
Right.
However, my understanding is, from my vast knowledge of having gone through the Golden Arches several million times over my life, that those are franchise operations.
Sure.
So there is no corporate record of this. It's possible that she did work there, although you wonder why. I heard John Podhoretz on a commentary podcast talk about this. I couldn't believe it. You wonder why she would even bother working at McDonald's in college. She didn't really need to work there. She would work something. She'd have a better job than that. That's a high school entry.
I worked at Jack in the Box. Okay, when they had a franchise here back in 1970. I don't think they could check on that. I don't know if Jack in the Box has records of me working there in 70 and 71, but she could refute it. And this is the problem. She won't refute what they've come out with. She'll just ignore it because I don't think she did work at McDonald's if they're coming out with this now. So she's got all sorts of little stuff that bothers her. She's got some big stuff. Her 3.5 years being vice president. I really know that I worked elections, 4 national elections. If you had paper ballots, I wouldn't be worried about the election either way.
All right, we'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah, because I'll tell you what, you used to get done by midnight. Now they're counting votes in Pennsylvania 6 days later. That's not right, period.
Yeah, that's I mean, I agree with you on that, although I don't think the election was rigged. But
well, then why don't you count the votes in one day? Like they did.
I mean, that's a legitimate question. I mean, it should get done. And
that's why it's open for discussion that there could be. Well, first of all, if you think there's no fraud, I mean, you had to have an ID to get into the Democratic convention, but you don't need one to vote. Give me a break, Yeah. When their lives are on the line, they want IDs, period, end of story. That's just the way it is.
I just wanted to say that I kind of want to work at McDonald's now because I miss being behind a microphone all the time. And
you know what? Dropping a basket of fries again would just make the hair in the back of my neck stand up. Where I was, where I've been, the metrics of time.
Right. No, so and then they're going back and forth on the rules, and the Democrats are trying to change the rules on this, and she's trying to limit the debates, and she wants his mic open, and I kind of wish he could just keep his mouth shut for a second and leave the mics open, but because he's his own worst enemy that way when he interrupts and is rude. And remember, if he's
because
rude
calling
to a
him
lady,
Hitler isn't rude. See, I get a kick out of people. You know what's wrong with the Republican Party or independents or anybody? How he calls her incompetent and dumb. You've been calling the guy Hitler for 2 years. So shut up, knock it off if you're not tough enough to take it. I mean, my God. I mean, they got 34 indictments on the guy. They just came out with another one yesterday. They don't want to face this guy. It's plain and simple. They're trying to do everything to avoid a fight. But don't call me Hitler or don't call me a racist for 3-4 years. And if I call you a dumbass chick, you're going to get offended. Don't do that.
It's a double standard.
Period.
There's no question about it.
Yep.
I mean, you can't even make fun of a vice president's son anymore, nominee.
Well,
so anyway,
they made fun of Dan Quayle. I remember they made fun of the vice president, the guy that ran, and he came out of nowhere, but he misspelled a name or something.
Did you know at the time? Did you know how to spell potato at the time, Mike? That was the key.
I wasn't sure about the E or less or lack of E at the end, to be honest with you, Bruce. I had to check with some sources.
I totally understand that when he misspelled.
But I mean,
potato.
they barbecue people, and this is where the sexist part comes in. Hey, look, you're running for president. You're gonna use the poor little me thing. Forget about it. I mean, she's running for president. He's a barroom brawler. That's just the way it is. Some people like him, some people don't. But he's so rude. You've been calling the guy Hitler. He's got a right to be rude.
Here's the thing about, I wish Kamala had been asked in her interview questions the way that she questioned Brett Kavanaugh when she basically accused him of participating in a gang rape based on no corroboration whatsoever.
Right, or none.
So,
and then the woman that brought all those that was sitting there, she should have been put in jail because that wasn't true. I mean, you can't just make up stuff about people like that. And I mean, they ripped him to shreds, and he took it. And you're right about that, Bruce, bringing that up. You know what? Don't start saying, "Oh, poor me." You're calling me names and stuff like that. It becomes uncivilized on both ends, really, when you stop and think about it.
Well, let's see. I
befuddled you with that comment.
Oh, and there's no question. I'm no debater.
I love when you put the glasses on. You're like Truman.
I know. Hey, by the way, speaking of Truman, am I right? Maybe I'm biased here, but the Jack Brickhouse statue on Michigan Avenue looks more like Truman than it does Jack Brickhouse. What do you think?
I'll tell you, he's the best announcer I ever heard as far as local. But yeah, he doesn't look exactly. It doesn't look exactly.
It's not
like
him.
It's
not him. It was a bad. That unveiling was bad.
He looks almost like Hans Blext. The guy that. What is Howard? There he is. Look at boy.
There,
Chris is on his game today, man.
And I've told this before.
You know who really looks like Ed Burke?
Yeah, they could have gotten a twofer, a Brickhouse and Ed Burke, the good old number 14th Ward alderman.
Jack was never built that big. Jack's built like a lineman there.
So
look at his shoulders on the man.
So in the background would be Studio 5, the former Studio 5.
Right, I remember.
5. And I used to, between newscasts on Channel 5, because they'd have a newscast at 5 and then they'd have one at 6, but at 5:30 the national news came on. So I'd come out, I'd be wearing my suit, have my makeup on, and I'd stand next to that statue while the tourists came by, and I'd say, "Do you want to take a picture of a living sportscaster?" What they really wanted me to do was hold their camera and take pictures of them with Jack Brickhouse. Whee!
Back, hey. You guys are the best.
Okay. His call, May the 12th, 1970. What's that call? What's the call that he makes?
Ernie.
Number 500.
Back. There it goes. Whee! That a boy, Ernie. Whee!
So, all right. We have a couple of tweets that you had come up. I had seen. And I think we were going to name the segment We've got a lot of production values in
I
this,
love
in
it.
this thing. So
That's
what were we
great.
calling it? Mike's tweets or something?
I
But
like the shelving, the background you have there. It's beautiful.
oh, isn't that great? Yeah, I should give a tour. You know, like
You got a couple
Jackie.
rags on the first shelf, a couple big books that you never read.
I
on
could
the
be like
second
Jackie
shelf.
Kennedy giving a tour of the White House. Right here, we have a shoe that was worn by Grover Cleveland. All right, so
Oh, yeah.
North's neighborhood, we're calling this. So let's take a look at one of your tweets
Right,
here.
right,
That and now you've got to defend your tweets.
right.
I hope you can ad lib this. Can we just take a look
It's
at
up
one?
my alley, baby.
Okay, so this one says Mark Zuckerberg is a weasel.
Yes, he is.
Okay, and why is that?
Well, because he basically censored. He let the administration talk him out of releasing more COVID information that would have been damaging to certain parties. So he says now that he wishes that they never put pressure on him. But the Biden administration used to call them every week, his team, and just relentlessly go after him to change this and change that. And he says he shouldn't have done it, but he did after the fact. And
Now that to me is rigging an election.
there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, that Hunter Biden's laptop.
Right.
That's rigging an election.
I mean, we're just telling the truth there. He came out and fessed up and said, I shouldn't have done it. Yeah, well, now you're saying that because you don't want more books thrown at you. But you didn't say it at the time, and you helped steer some things. That's all there is to it.
Bruce Wolf, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap.
Doesn't make you a winner. Losing doesn't make you a loser. Winning habits makes you a winner. Losing habits makes you a loser. Set a goal to be one of 32. The best at your position. The best. Right? If it's long snapper, kicker, center, nickel, corner, linebacker, whatever it is, make a decision to do it. Look at the guys in the past that were at the best at your position, and how do they act? You guys heard of Walter Payton running up and down them hills? Right? Jerry Rice doing his thing? Right? Find out what they did.
Bruce Wolf, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap. So, Mike, I was reading your tweets, for the last several years.
Yeah, I read yours too.
You were not on the Justin Fields bandwagon like everybody else.
I was the first
Let's
guy.
face it. Isn't it true, Mr. North, that you're just a old white racist who didn't like a black quarterback who was going to do things a little bit differently? And if Luke Getsy had been able to adapt to him, Justin Fields would have led the Chicago Bears to a Super Bowl. Isn't that true?
Well, now I know who was sending me those mean tweets. First of all, I had no problem. People have been calling me that for years. I sort of nipped that in the bud when I went to work for the Chicago Defender, an all-black newspaper. That took the gun out of everybody's hands. I'll say, yeah, show them how much. And so when you're called that means you're a loser. Anybody that calls me that name, racist, first of all, what happened to prejudice? What happened to prejudice? See, racist is Mississippi. It's the Gene Hackman movie, Mississippi Burning. That's hatred. That's killing. That's all. Everything isn't racial. There's prejudice. If there's a Jewish guy in the ring with an Irishman and they're boxing and Bruce Wolf walks in,
the Irishman's going to win. Sure.
But Bruce Wolf will root for the Jew.
I'll root for the Jew, and the Jew will do the books for the Irishman.
Just say, I walked into, it's like if you see a black guy fighting a white guy, okay, and a black guy walks in, you go, who are you for? He's not going to say, for the most part, the white guy. I'm here for, unless you know him. I knew Evander Holyfield, know him real well. Greatest guy on earth. I'd root for him anytime. But if you just go in blind and you don't know what's going on, I always said it's about ethnic pride. I mean, the Jewish boxers of the 30s, the 30s, the Italian boxers of the 50s, the black boxers of the 60s, it was a way of them getting out of the ghetto back in the day. And you had your favorites. And if you can find me an Italian who didn't like Rocky Marciano in the 50s, I want to meet him. Okay. Or if you didn't, if you want to find me a Jewish guy that didn't like back in the 30s, Willie Pep, the ghetto wizard, you ain't going to find him. It was about ethnic pride, neighborhood, and stuff like that. It had nothing.
I'm trying to think of the big Jewish. Was it Barney Ross or
Barney Ross?
Yeah.
Was tremendous.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember a dream come true, Bruce, for both of us. There was an Italian Jewish boxer named Mike Rossman, who was the light heavyweight champ in the 70s. You know,
Okay.
he had the flag of Italy on one side and the Jewish star on the other. Yeah, that's Barney Ross. I knew Tony Zale. He ran the Park District Boxing. That's when fights were vicious. I mean, nowadays a guy gets a little dizzy, gets shook up, and the ref jumps in. I mean,
Nowadays they've got women boxing in the Olympics, men boxing against women in the Olympics. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Although, and then fairness to the poor soul who's got the XY chromosome. This person was raised as a
I love
those
that
nice bright colors. So, but this girl, I mean, she was raised as a woman. She didn't even know, I don't think, that she was a man.
Well, the mustache sort of like the mustache might have given. I mean, she looked big. She looked big. Come on, I didn't know what an XY chromosome was. I only know about the song Kodachrome. I had no idea. But there's something seriously wrong. I think since COVID, we've lost our way. Everybody. I mean, you got women boxing guys. I mean, you know, and then they decide to do it. They'll get in the ring, they'll swim against the guys, and the guys win every time. And you know what really makes me mad? It's the people like Billie Jean King, the columnists like Christine Brennan, these people that were all about Title IX. And now they don't write anything about this situation at all. Billie Jean King is for transgenders. Her and Martina Navratilova have had a falling out because of that.
Yeah, right.
I mean, so it's just absolutely insane. You're a father. I didn't have any kids, but there's no way my daughter, if I had a daughter, would get in the ring with something. Look, with that. Huh? Looks like Anthony Franciosa, for God's sake.
I like them.
Nice
guns. Nice guns.
Great. Valentine's Day back in the day.
Well, you know what? We've got a quarterback now,
the
savior who paints his fingernails. So I don't know what sex he is, but I know that he's the savior.
Caleb but the savior ran into mommy's arms after he lost a game on national TV.
Yes.
Now, here's what I said today on Twitter. I'm just going to read this briefly because I've been hearing the nonsense like I did about Fields. Look at Tony and the boxer. It says here, George McCaskey's excited about the Bear season, and so is his mom. That's nice. But he wants everyone to stay patient with Caleb Williams. I answered, sorry, I heard Colin Coward say he's a once-in-a-generation quarterback. Heard Danny Parkins say he's already the best Bear quarterback ever. Heard Paul Howard on VSiN say he's the goods. Now I'm hearing from George we have to be patient.
Right.
I mean, come on. The kid lost 5 games last year. Heck of a quarterback in college. But Lincoln Riley, every quarterback he's coached has either won a Heisman, like with Baker Mayfield or Jack Wright, or been close. I just think this is a third-base team, but you're asking us to be patient after I've been hearing for the last year the same garbage I heard about Justin Fields for 3 years.
I'd be happy with 9-8 this year for the Bears.
If I told you in 4 years, he's going to throw for an average of 2,800 yards a year. He'll throw 64 touchdowns in his career, 37 interceptions. He'll limit his fumbles. He'll basically lead the team to playoffs 2 out of 4 years. What would you say? Would that be good enough for you?
No, not for a savior, not for a number 1 pick. No.
Okay, but I'm going to tell you something. I want you to look up Trevor Lawrence's numbers later. The numbers I just gave you were Mitch Trubisky's. Trevor Lawrence just signed a contract for $240 million. Mitch Trubisky's numbers are equal to his. This is how insane it is. And we watched Justin Fields go 10-29. And they think he was actually going to take Russell Wilson's job away from him in Pittsburgh. They named him the quarterback today or yesterday, Russell Wilson, because Justin Fields can't play. And yet I keep hearing the drunk.
No. It was only the racists like you in Chicago.
I was the only guy that stood. But you know why? Because nobody wants to be called that. I've been called every name in the book.
Right.
Okay. I don't care. if I know a guy can't play like Justin Fields, I'm going to say it. And he couldn't play. He couldn't play. And now I see the Shane Waldron. I like his play calling. I like him better than Getsy. But I want to see what Getsy does in Seattle now.
Yeah. But I mean, you would agree that Caleb Williams has more talent than Justin Fields.
I think he's cockier. I think he's got more confidence. I think he's got more talent. He doesn't panic as much. He doesn't want to run right away.
Well, he sees the field better.
Yes, he does.
Move.
I'm not saying the kid isn't going to make it, but you're asking a guy that's been a fan since '61, and you too. You've been there as long as I have.
63.
To be patient.
Where did you see the Bears championship game?
I watched it from Wrigley. I sat with my two uncles, Leo and Joe. My uncle Joe.
You were in Wrigley Field?
I was in Wrigley Field. I sat in the upper deck. It's the coldest day of my life. I'll never forget it.
Which upper deck? I'm testing you like I'm testing
Kamala on Addison. The Addison facing Waveland. So you
facing Waveland. You're down the first.
I was in the upper deck with my two uncles. I was 9 years old. I wasn't dressed completely properly. You're a 9-year-old kid,
right?
Almost froze to death, and I could hardly see the game. People would get up. I mean,
sure.
But that was the first game. It was the coldest game. But I mean,
so basically, I think Richie Pettibone's interception is in your end zone there, right in front of you.
I know. I think. Well, Larry Morris had a big.
He had Larry Morris, good old number 33.
Yeah. Sure. Took Joe Fortunato's number.
31. Yeah.
Was Fortunato 31?
Yeah, 31,
Doug was 55.
Yeah.
Doug Buffon tells me Joe Fortunato was one of the greatest people. Doug did tell me Joe Fortunato was one of the great guys, one of the great mentors a guy could ever have. But yeah, I don't, was it Pettibone that intercepted that?
Pettibone made the interception. Yeah, George Allen once diagrammed that play for me.
Look at him. Look at Chris on fire. Look at him.
Joe Fortunato, good old number 30.
There he is. Well, great linebacker.
Sure. Yeah. All right. So, I mean, do you think this year Bears 9-8?
I'm going to go 8-9. I think because of the division, they're front loaded. What happens if they lose the first game? They're only 4.5-point favorites to Tennessee.
Season's over. They lose to the Titans. Season's over.
What happens if they win 7 games with him and they won 7 with Fields last year? See, this reminds me.
It's the first year.
It's almost. Well, you know what? I would say that, but the Craig Counsell, David Ross situation where he won 83 games last year and they fired him. And Craig Counsell now they're starting to play some better ball. They're playing like the orphans of the storm.
Sure.
But I mean, they've taken a chance the same way. The Cubs have taken a chance. Are they going to be better than they were last year? It looks like now they are, but they're still 5.5 back in the column, and they made a switch. So we'll see what happens if it works. Counsell blew at least 4 or 5 games for him in April and May. I saw pulling pitchers early like Steele, pulling pitchers like Assad early. So, I won't. They're only 5.5 back in the wild card, but there's like 3-4 teams in front of them, and Atlanta never loses.
Mike, I think you need a sports outlet.
No, don't worry. I've always had.
I
had that since I was 9 years old on the street corner on Thorndale and Glenwood. I don't give a damn where I work. Exactly. So you know what they don't get? You know what nobody gets? I'm fine. We're all good. You know what's great?
What?
What's great though? That you're still rolling.
Oh, hey,
still rolling.
By the way, that Sox crowd that was there the other day, there's nobody in there. And you mentioned there was but yet they're charging $17 for a milkshake. I think if you got $1 from each person in the crowd, you could have bought one milkshake.
I played in front of more people at Dillon's, at Little League. I played in front of more people at Clarendon Park, 16-inch softball, Forest Park. We played in front of a couple thousand people, and at Clarendon Park in the '80s, for God's sake, and that's a shame. And it's never going to happen. Don't worry, folks. If I was governor, I would call Reinsdorf in front of, I'd have a hearing. Do you want to win with this team? Because you're getting a lot of state money. You don't have to pay rent.
I used to work for Channel 32, and we actually sued the White Sox because they put a bad product on the field.
Well, here's the deal.
Anywhere.
This deal by Thompson was based. If you don't draw over $2.5 million, you don't have to pay rent. Well, then he's naturally kept it under $2.5 million, has had the best rental deal of anybody in this city. But I would call him in front and say, if you don't want to compete, if you don't want to win, we can't give you the same deal. We have to rip the deal up. And based on the fact, if you go 500 or better, you don't have to pay rent. If you go 500 or worse, you pay rent. Period. End of story.
Mike, thanks for solving all the problems from politics to sports. I appreciate it. We got to do it again
You want
soon.
me to do weather?
Yeah, give me
It's
do
warm.
weather as well. If you could wear a nice tight leotard.
Bruce, I love sitting in with you, man. It's
Okay,
a good time.
thanks.
It's a good
Bruce
time.
Wolf.
And I love the background. I love the yellow thing there. I don't know if that's a shade. You know, right over your shoulder. You look like you're sitting in Captain Kirk's chair.
You don't see my RuPaul outfit behind me. Okay. Bruce Wolf, Mike North on the Weekly Wrap.
Thanks, guys.
And that's the Weekly Wrap on radio and television. Follow Bruce at Bruce Wolf Shy on Twitter and Tim at timslagle.com. The Weekly Wrap with Bruce Wolf, a CP Pods production.